I think a lot of Chowon haters who did not know his side will feel bad because some, and remember, I said some, of his hate isn't well deserved. But I'm still hoping he can heal and be with Kyungsoo. Before we get started, I just wanted to remind our viewers that if you like seeing more yaoi content and would like to support this channel, please don't forget to smash that like button. Also, if you haven't done so, please subscribe to this channel and hit that notification bell. Feel free to message me in my Twitter or Instagram at ZEALED FUJOSHI, which I'll be using to interact with viewers about more yaoi content. If that's something that interests you, feel free to follow me at ZEALED FUJOSHI. Finally, this video will contain explicit content and manhwa spoilers. With that in mind, please proceed with caution. You have been warned. Now, without further ado, let's jump into chapter 88 of Love is an Illusion. So this chapter focuses on Chowon and Kyungsoo again and starts off with Kyungsoo confronting Chowon about the things that Heesung said on the previous chapter. And I think Chowon should sort out everything before he really decides to tell Kyungsoo he loves him and stuff, because right now this chapter shows he's not of stable mind and he can completely go loose, exactly what is shown in this chapter. I also want to commend Kyungsoo for how he handled the situation. He told Chowon what he heard from Heesung and knew and gave Chowon a chance to say his version of events. His decisions at the end of the conversation was factual, logical statements resulting from the facts given by both sides, right? He heard Heesung's side and then he gave Chowon a chance to tell his side of the story. And it shows how conflicting, their resolves are. But I'm also glad he confronted Chowon like that. I wouldn't blame him for saying he's scared. I would be too. And the fact that Chowon acted that and showed that he still thinks and probably loves Dojun is kind of wrong, So I don't blame Kyungsoo for leaving after that. To be honest, I would too. Thinking that I wouldn't be able to do anything. It's just best to let Chowon realize what's best for himself. All the shocking things Kyungsoo learned, plus having his heart broken, I really do think anyone would walk away. That's anyone's initial reaction. And then on Chowon, even though I was mad at Chowon for the bad things he did, deep inside I feel sad for the guy. He's so love deprived. And when Chowon met Kyungsoo, I was literally glad and happy for him because, he finally has a chance to move on. So after seeing this chapter, I don't know if I'm gonna be depressed or I'm gonna cry. Like, seriously, I really don't know. And it also made me realize that I'm honestly thinking something traumatic must have happened to Chowon as a child for him to be like this. And this is even before Dojun came to the picture. Probably something family related. No matter how crazy someone is, they won't full on hallucinate after just having a verbal fight. It must be really deep and we still don't know what it is. But I'm also glad that we heard Chowon's side of the story, that he didn't really break that Omega's leg. And Yet I'm still angry on how he treated Heesoo. I'm sad how Chowon's family treated him and how Dojun didn't love him despite Chowon loving Dojun so much. But the guy was in love with Heesoo. What can he do? you know? And then again, I'm also angry at Chowon again for hurting Kyungsoo, because he blatantly said that he's basically still in love with Dojun at this point. And then the thing that made me hate Chowon the most is when, after touching the cutest little star Byul, he wiped his hands. That's really the thing that makes me hate Chowon, but that's just me. This chapter made me think, like, I remember seeing Chowon for the first time, and I really hated him, not only for what he did to Heesoo, but as I read this story, I really start to sympathize with his character. He's lived his whole life known as the prettiest Omega, a talented musician, and that's all people know him for. People only gave him credit for how he looks, and they think he has everything. But with that comes the fact that no one has bothered to get to know him, because he seems too out of reach for everyone, and he's learned that the only good qualities he has is his looks. When he married Dojun thinking someone might love him and care for him for who he really is, just to come to face the fact that Dojun will never yearn for him the way he wants Dojun to. Spending years with Dojun just to see Dojun fall in love with someone else in a significantly shorter time. I know that doesn't excuse what Chowon did, but imagine the pain and the loneliness of having the man you long for love someone else so deeply. His explosive anger when confronted by Kyungsoo was probably him diverting back to his default self, the one that's distant to people because he's so scared of being left and neglected the same way Dojun did to him. I know a lot of people hate Chowon, but remember the one panel where he's sitting alone in Dojun and his shared home at night, and Dojun wouldn't even come home. Imagine that isolation he felt, and not knowing what it was about himself that made him not deserving of Dojun's affection. What was wrong with him? That marriage was the only thing he wanted, to feel cared for by others. But instead it broke him even worse. And Dojun couldn't even divorce Chowon himself. Though he clearly knew he didn't love Chowon, he didn't even have the courage to give Chowon some peace of mind, but instead led him on a life of a cold and painful marriage. Also, I'm no way blaming Dojun. I love him and Heesoo. I mean, they're one of my favorite couples. And, it just made me realize that people love to hate on a character just because of the personality they have first when they were introduced. But then they don't even bother to really look at their past trauma and all the events that have caused them to be the way they are and do certain, things. No, their past isn't an excuse, but it's a reason, And you have to understand people's reasons for doing things instead of instantly just hating on them. In Chowon's case, we have to realize that everything he was doing as a desperate call for help after everything he's been through. I pity Chowon, I really do. Of course, he needs to take responsibility and apologize to Hyesung. His actions were bad. There isn't an excuse for that. But there's a lot of things in Chowon's side that needs to be taken into consideration. Chowon isn't mentally stable, and he has a lot of anger inside. At some point, maybe he really loved Dojun. The divorce was probably his way of testing his love for him. And of course, Dojun never loved Chowon back. And as for the failed marriage thing, for a famous person like Chowon, plus his high-ranking family that he has, of course, he's humiliated and went under a lot of pressure from others. And that led him to think he desperately needed Dojun back. Although Dojun was never his, I personally think that he doesn't really love Dojun anymore. It's just a desperate call, just thinking that maybe everything will be back to normal if he got Dojun back. But I really don't think he loves Dojun anymore. And you know, Chowon is the kind of person with not much people around him that actually understands him and cares for him. So I guess he wasn't able to see that he has zero chance with Dojun. Now Kyungsoo, your job is to be the man for Chowon. But if it gets too toxic, hopefully he can just end it on good terms. And what I mean by that is minimal damage. We all know who's ending up with who regardless anyway. Also, just a disclaimer, okay? I know I've been ranting for a while now. This is already at 12 minutes. But I'm not excusing Chowon's past action at all. And he should own up to them and apologize to Heesoo. But I'm just saying, stop being assholes to someone who's mentally ill, especially if you've never dealt with mental issues yourself. He needs help. He can't cope on his own, and he needs to apologize to Heesoo. I know Kyungsoo will take him back, but he needs to go to therapy. This is a life-changing moment, now or never. I really hope he takes his treatment seriously, and Kyungsoo will be by his side 100% sure. I hope you enjoyed today's episode. I know I'm ranting for quite a while now. Please don't forget to follow my social media to be teased about some of the boys' love that I'm interested in. Feel free to leave a message and converse with me. I'd love to hear from you. Also, don't forget to support the author. All the Manwha details can be found in the description below. Again, thank you so much and hope to see you next time.